this was also the point at which I realized that me and my ex we're my ex now, but at the time we were dating, and it was kind of the clicking point where I realized we weren't going to make it. And so we were kind of sitting on the couch, and I was just like, I don't think we can do this anymore. And she gives me this look, and then she just like collapses to the floor, which is exceptionally awkward because this is my first breakup.
Ouch.
So she starts crying, and I'm like, and the only thing that can come to my mind is, you've got to stop crying. You're going to wake up my parents.
Oh no! Oh no!
And so, and once again, I didn't realize until afterwards that about a couple minutes later, I was like, there were probably more sensitive ways to go about that particular situation. And I still suffer for it. We're friends, now. So I mean, I still.
Sure, you are. Sure. That's what they all say.
It's been a long road. But I guess that kind of segues into my question. One of the things that we talked about, I took fiction with Dr. Moffat last semester, and one of the things that we always talked about is that a lot of the things that you write about are in one way or another autobiographical. It has some sort of internal content. Do you feel like your book, kind of hits some crucial points? And if it hits a point that's sensitive, how do you write through that?
Well, actually, it's totally fictional work because I've never even met a man. I've never, no, just kidding. It's a lot of overlap in my life, but I felt what's really helpful is, and you're right that everything has an internal. I think of it kind of like any story you might write, and I like to write short stories as well. When you dream and you have all these characters in your dream, they're kind of like shadow selves. So people, your world is your oyster. You can pick any person you want. And you could use material and details from their life, and you can shift it. And I felt halfway through writing the book that I really did fictionalize it because I didn't have an axe to grind. I didn't want to do a Jerry Springer tell-all or a confessional style. And I also felt it could free me up to remember things that happened, even though I wasn't really remembering them in terms of the actual verity of it. Just kind of what I guess Lucy Greeley says when she wrote that book, Anatomy of a Face, if any of you have read that. And people said, oh my God, how did you remember all those details? And she said, wait a second, I didn't remember it, I wrote it. And that's what I think, in response to your question, that I think writing is different than remembering, but you do remember, and there's a lot of unconscious and emotional content that's coming out when you write, and you're filling in to the details so that it will make sense to someone who's reading it, and it's sort of a worn path through just all of these things that you could say, but then you make a path and you choose different things, and it serves from A to B. So the reader has meaning. There's meaning, and your job as a writer isn't to confound or befuddle people. So yes, you do choose whatever you want, but it has to make sense from a structural and a tone standpoint and craft. There's a lot of craft involved, obviously. My editor.
No,
pardon me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you.
No. What?
No, I wasn't sure what. I completely lost my train of thought. It was just that quick. But I guess it is nice to. I guess as an attempt at I'm attempting to write, and just hitting those points where you encounter this sort of the emotional content behind what you're writing, and it's just especially when you can write about a severe situation such as a heartbreak or something like that, which I never write about because I'm too scared. But
I think you need to get that distance, and I think our parents had their World War, and we have divorce. That's actually quite a good theme because I think it is goes across the board. There's so many people who have gone through breakups or very severe divorces, and it is becoming enough of a theme that I think we can make art out of it, but it's kind of difficult. You do have to have a vehicle. So I think the confessional style isn't necessarily one that would be a good one for this. You'd maybe fictionalizing it, or it's like anything. There's all kinds of stories about love, and tons of them. Anna Karenina, or anything you can think of, and people keep telling the story over and over again. just has to be told in a way that is interesting to people and not, cliche or just, oh, I fell in love and she had a heart of gold and she broke my heart, so. Oh, I'm sorry.
One of the things, we're learning a few things in Dr. Moffat's 50-20 class, graduate class. One of the things is generation. We're learning how to generate our writing. What kind of techniques did you use?
Not to generate? Can you say that?
Generate your writing. What kind of techniques did you do to generate your flow of thought, and what authors influenced you?
Well, I tend to stay up all night, which is a very bad thing. But it's because I teach piano during the day, and so I sit at the piano and then I sit at the keyboard and then think, computer, oh, I'll just stay up for a few hours and write, and then suddenly the birds are chirping and it's very scary. So that kind of generates, because you get into this sort of fugue state of exhaustion. And I finished the book that way. It was not a good way to do it. I started the book about 12 years ago with the most high-minded motive, revenge. So, but then it quickly, instead of deteriorating, it sort of got a little more high-minded, and I realized actually what I'm writing about is love more than anything. And by the way, I don't usually sound like this. I've actually lost my voice 2 days ago, so I'm very sorry that I've heard it's called the Charleston cough. Yeah, I have it from Chicago though, so it's bizarre. But anyway, to generate writing, again, I just think it has to be a habit. It has to be something that you do. And in my case, I think I started it a long time ago, but then I had a theater company, so I did one-woman shows, and then I directed a little bit, so I kind of put it on hold for many years. And then Undoing I Do became kind of a little musical I did in Chicago. And from a musical, I went to Ragdale, which is in Lake Forest, and then I kind of started to fiendishly concentrate on the book and the core writing of it. And then I got an agent through, it's a very good agent in New York, but he actually lost my work about 5 times in a row. So it just shows you that, you'll send it and they'll say, oh, I lost it. And then you'll send it again. So, I lost it. So eventually it could work, but it's a little bit akin to being struck by lightning, I guess. And I'm probably the oldest first-time novelist to be published in the United States, I think. I think they're usually looking for 20-year-olds, but I feel honored, And to generate writing and my influences, well, I really like this one book, which I told Letitia about. It was the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1955, Sigrid Undset's book, Kristen Lavransdatter. And I really like her style. It's very terse and very dry, but it's in the 14th century, so it's this incredibly fabulous tale. And other influences, I don't know, when I was writing the book, I guess I just read all the time, so I read all kinds of things. And I read poetry, I read short stories, I read Frank O'Connor, I read metaphysical poetry, just anything to sort of just have fun while I'm doing it. And there's a lot of people, like Dorothy Parker had said, I guess famously, that some people like to have written. I actually like writing. I enjoy it. To me, it's kind of like practicing the piano. It's just fun. I just enjoy it. And I love editing. So I think the editing process is so fabulous because it gets better and better, or it should. And when my editor in New York would say, oh, could you take out this paragraph or something, I'd say, take the whole chapter out. She'd be like, what? I go, oh, just take out 50 pages right there. And I took out like 150 pages of the book, so it was a lot longer. But I just love killing my babies. I just really enjoy it. And because I think it gets it better. It just streamlines it much more. And so people who want to hang on to their work, I'm like trying to say to them, don't hang on to it. Just there's more where that came from. Just don't be afraid to let go. So authors, what's some of your favorite authors? I probably just love them all. I'm reading Willa Cather right now, Song of the Lark.
My ex-fiance was related to Willa Cather.
Pardon me?
My ex-fiance was related to Willa Cather.
Oh, very cool.
And I like Ray Bradbury.
Okay, neat.